Hello, dear friends, and welcome to our podcast dedicated to sight reading through the lens of the historically informed performance practice. My name is Darina.
And I'm Sebastien.
And today it's not about sight reading at all.
Or about historically informed performance practice either.
Right.
Yeah.
So, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Tim, and I'm the audio designer, interactive metaphysical metasystem architecture.
Oh,
Wow.
Sounds impressive. Can you tell
What
us
does that
more
mean?
about what you do here in Basel and what you were doing before?
I like to create worlds. Basically, I came to Basel to study simply audio design. We have such a good place in Hochschule für Musik Elektronische Studio. We learn how to make the whole universe out of it. It's not just something separate, but the sound can be the whole world, and that's what I'm interested in.
You told me before we were talking about synesthesia. Do you know what it is, Sebastien?
I do.
Yeah, so basically, Timofey told me that he has this type of synesthesia when he hears sounds and music, and some images appear in his mind that are actually geometric figures. And it's this kind of synesthesia that he has. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I haven't mentioned it for quite some time. I just felt like every sound or any phrase in language sort of creates in me some form, or it creates in me some association which can be felt like a form or material, like
a texture.
Like a texture, yes. And then I was just speaking with some people, and they started to tell me that this is something like not usual. And then after some time, I found out that it's also a developing skill, sort of. I guess it's just the way we think. And if we try to connect few types of art, for example, sound and, for example, visual art, that's what I like to do, you become sort of this bridge between those different methods of perceivement of art, and then you can really develop it into one sort of feeling, and that's what basically synesthesia is. That's how I feel it. Yeah, I always, recently, especially when I work a lot with visual and connecting to the sound, I always like have this specific feeling and visual representation of it, of the sound, and vice versa as well.
But you have been studying architecture, isn't it?
Yes, I wanted to be an architect for quite some time, and then I wanted to be also a painter, but I always was into sound since I was like 5 years old. So the sound was like leitmotif in my life. And although I was so much interested in my like teenage years in visuals, I always was connected to sound, and so this could be the reason why I got this sort of synesthesia in the end.
I wanted to ask. What did I want to ask? Oh, can you talk a little bit about the medium that you're using? So you use electronics, but you also use electronic art that you make yourself, and also you code things. Can you tell us about your development into going into like, computers and all these things?
Oh yes, I think it's all started very funny with just playing Minecraft when I was like 13 or 12, and then I wanted to hack the game because I wanted to extend it. I wanted to add my reality to this reality. And then I tried to understand how the system of folders and directories work in macOS system. And then once I found out that it's basically just manipulation with folders and dragging and dropping the right files into the right place and renaming files, I found out that this is kind of a power which you have to create your own worlds and go over just this, for example, commercial walls which they build around their products, so you can really extend it. And then I got interested in electronic music through GarageBand, and then once I discovered that there is such a thing as modular synthesizer, which I've been playing today in my individual set, I found out that the music can be like not tightened to some like keyboard or sort of way of expressing through your hands, but through the logic. So you can program the sound and it would develop by itself. And then sort of I connected this knowledge to the feeling which I had at that teenage moment when I tried to hack the Minecraft and it worked. And I found out, okay, what can I do with it? Let's go and try to do the same with the sound. And then I, of course, found out that there's such a thing as a Max MSP, which gives you the possibility to code everything and just build your own synthesizer, build your own compositions which just make you music by themselves without you. And then recently I developed this website which is like an extensive experience for the album I wrote. And the beauty about website design is that this is something super social. We all have a smartphone to go to this domain and just look through it and just feel this experience all together. Coding is just like a magic. First, you need to learn it, but then it gives you beautiful freedom.
Could you tell us more about your album?
The concept of this album was tightly connected, and it is tightly connected to the programming idea of masking. So basically the thing in programming, you can take one type of data and mask it with the other type of data. And sort of this is like a convolution of bits. Some of them melt together, some of them become zeros, and then you get the new type of data, because like our computer interprets everything in zeros and ones. Once you melt two types of data with zeros and ones, you get the third type of data, which can be then decoded by computer, and you get completely new result. And this was the idea how I came to creating the whole world around my album. And I wrote before 2 albums and I did not like them. And every time I didn't like the album, I started to make the new album out of the material of the previous one. And then the third album, which is the result of this masking of materials. And this is like also tightly connected sort of to our life experience, how we sort of go through the information which we learn and just use it, melting and morphing it with the previous experiences and getting something new. Like, I guess that's the way how we develop something new in the end. And the tracks, I have just 5 tracks in this album. It's pretty short. It's 5 tracks which last at all 13 minutes. And the idea was also not to go too much like into showing like different structures, different systems, but it was more about making something very compact, very prominent and clear, and just be conceptual, but also be very creative. Because I don't like really long type of music. I like when it's super fast and it's changing, and you can't really feel sort of something very repetitive, as we've been like listening and we saw and we heard that my music is not that sort of classically made where you have A, B, A, you know. I have rather A, B, C, D, E, F, I don't know. And it could be more complex to listen, but I guess it's just like never-ending trip.
And could you tell us more about the website that you created with the masks, but they are at the same time the scores, so you can really wear them and play them?
Yes, so the mask is like a symbol to this concept of masking in digital media. And I developed for every track in my album certain type of a mask, and it has some specific description of how it affects your sound, how it masks your sort of way of hearing. That's the concept as well. So once you listen to the track, it sort of transforms your way how you perceive the sound. And on the website you can go through every mask, listen and look how it would transform your type of hearing and perceiving. The very cool thing which I've been really working on for a month is to create those masks not in one dimension, but rather in orthogonal multidimensional space where you move this mask, and once you move it to the right angle, it becomes not a mask but a visual score for that piece which this mask is according to. I took inspiration from some like artists from 20th century. They also were really interested in this like multidimensional space and distortion of geometry. And the computer is crazy cool media for this, because you can create never existing sort of, but still realistic spaces and as well sounds. yeah, you can see, for example, that masks are just fragmented. They are not just like one shape, not one mesh, but it's just like different meshes, different figures, which form a mask in the end. And then it is also kind of the way how I was creating this music. This is different forms, different samples, different materials, tightened together to create one form, which is very chaotic but structured in some conceptual way.
And what is your process then when you're improvising, when you're playing live? How do you bring all that into a live performance?
I'm a really intuitive guy in improvising. I really like improvising, and this is the most interesting for me way, even producing music. So, and when I play like live or improvise, I always just listen and don't think that much. I just want to create again this world. I just want to feel it, the space, the dimensions. And I just sort of follow my also visual perception, which like all these things I get from my synesthesia. I just look at them sort of, and it's instant feedback. I get the feedback from what I saw and I put it into the sound, and from the sound I get instant feedback of what I see, and then it's like iterating over without stopping.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the future actually, because like I discovered recently, it's not a recent thing that like we can do everything now in virtual reality. For instance, Gucci creates, or like whatever brand creates a collection that you can wear like online and you can buy online, and not necessarily a physical image or a physical object. And I was thinking, like, what is your view? What is your vision? How do you see the future in this regard? Will it be increasing, or no, we will say we don't want this virtual or extended reality anymore?
It's very funny that I already live in this reality. I'm the one who creates, sort of. I'm the one who invests his time and thinking into it. Once you believe in it, you really start to feel the physicality of this virtual world. Once you start to create these augmented reality masks, like clothes, because I already did like the whole, also with my friend, the collection for his fashion brand. Like I made the 3D version of the whole collection for his website. Somehow our brain works in such a way, once we really deal a lot with something, we start to believe that it exists, although it can be something virtual. I guess we will fall into this trap, but it may be blessing, but it also can be something very bad. And I think it depends on the balance which we would have between our real world and the augmented sort of world. Maybe not augmented. In some ways it's much more tightened and it has less maybe possibilities than the real world.
And for instance, the satisfaction of what you have been doing in real life and in virtual reality, is it the same? How could you compare those kind of things? Like real emotions, I mean, being received from real things or being online?
I guess I receive actually more satisfaction when I create these virtual things than the real life things. For example, I get much more feeling for creating like some like virtual mask which you can wear in AR than the real mask which you can like hold in your hand, because in some way I have this glitch in my mind which says me since I am a kid that in the computer you have a Control-Z, and in the life you don't have the Control-Z to undo this action. And the computer has like eternal storage sort of until the moment when the sun makes a crazy like explosion and everything ends. And then it makes me feel interested in this virtual reality simply because it has this feeling of eternity. Even the loop which you can program in the computer is nearly impossible in life. Like the loop which can go in complete iteration and create crazy like a problem for the computer is not possible in our life. It's because it does not have this sort of unlimited limit. And it's cool. I like it.
So does it calm you down that you can delete things
Yes.
from your life?
Yes, sort of. Not delete, but undo, sort of. That's what I've been thinking always. I remember also this experience when I was like sitting in front of a computer of my dad when I was like 5 years old, and I was very scared that I would do something wrong again. And then I started to move things around, put like in the other folders some files, and then I found out, okay, there's a button and it gives you a possibility to put it all back once it doesn't work the way I want. And it fascinated me. It's like such a freedom, sort of, you know, go back and forth. And even with the producing like electronic music, you can create thousands of copies of the same project, and every like instance can be fucked up, and it won't be really a problem if it's going bad, because you have the backup always. And for example, when you write the music on the paper, it's such a big mess, you know. You need to rewrite it again, and that's the problem. I can't really compose music on the paper. It's really making me feel like I don't have this freedom, you know. I don't have this freedom to have thousands of synths in my hand. I don't have this freedom to like copy paste and reverse it. I need to sort of spend so much time on these small little things.
And I realized that we are coming from a totally different world, because being on stage and performing a piece, it's a totally different experience. When you make a mistake, then you made a mistake. You cannot undo.
Yes, that's a very funny also thing about computers. Once you make a mistake, because there is no special like canonical type of how it should be, you know, you can't really make a mistake. And it's also fascinating. That's about electronic music, because I heard a lot of stories, and I was in such situations as well. Once you play live and you do such a crazy mistake and it sounds so nice. So it's really about this. It's about making mistakes in this virtual world and finding the way how the computer deals with those mistakes. Computer, especially nowadays, has these all machine learning algorithms which normalize data. You just throw this data into the computer, and it just makes you, and it gives you the average meaning of the whole data structure, and you just get the best like code ratio result, you know. How like the secret, you know, sort of my design for 3D, I just use the program which gives you possibility to make very smooth lines with a great algorithm which is built into this program. And that's all. You just need to find the way how you would work with this data and how you would work with these algorithms. That's the future, I think. Even in the music, the future is behind the machine learning, but not in the sense of that people would forget about writing music by themselves and computer would machine learn the whole thing and write music instead of them. No, the way how it would work, and it's amazing, I think, that we would get a very interesting algorithms which would give us more meta freedom over the structures we have. And then we can really go further with bigger structures, with bigger type of thinking. You don't need any more like that you need to write this passage in such a way. Your computer would write it for you. But now you would think, how I can really translate it in some new form, because the computer did something which was done before, sort of. It learned the things which were done before like that, and now it's a result of this learning and giving the same thing, which is typically the same. But now you have sort of view under this thing, which is fresh still because you haven't spent your energy on writing it by yourself. And you can now translate it in something completely new.
And do you think we're close to that reality?
In 20 years, we will be there. That's what I feel.
Thank you very much, Timofey.
Thank you.
Thank you. you.